And you're not always gonna have Wi-Fi. You're not always gonna have a translator available to you. If you somehow get dropped off in the middle of Mexico, what you gonna do? I just like I just feel like relying so heavily on technology and not having that skill set in your own database is setting yourself up for failure. It's lazy and it's unproductive, and I just feel like it should be used as a tool, but it shouldn't be relied on.
Where literacy evolves with technology and language proficiency. This is the Multiliterate Mind podcast with Dr. Liza Trejo and Marnina Falk Colman.
So good to be back in the studio, and I'm really excited for today's episode.
Me
so
too.
I'm really excited. You all are in for a treat today.
Mhm.
So together, for those new to the Multiliterate Mind, we are exploring how language proficiency, multiliteracy, and human connection are evolving in an AI-driven world. This is really a full circle moment for me because today's guests are three amazing young women who were all my Spanish students back in third, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. They were in my first
Wow.
class in the
Oh my goodness.
US. They're now in college, which is wild. So, anyway, we've got Cameron Durr, who's now a biology major with a chemistry minor at Claflin, who's even stepped into tutoring Spanish with Upward Bound. Destiny Williams, a communication major at USC who studied abroad in both Mexico and Japan and is pursuing a career in communication focused on global language and culture. And Kaylin Dalton, a psychology major on the pre law track at Hampton, who's been passionate about language learning since kindergarten. I'm just so excited to catch up with all of you and to hear how your journeys have unfolded and to also explore the topics we've been discussing through the eyes of our students. This is going to be a good one. So, Liza, let's get it started.
Yeah, welcome, ladies. You have quite impressive bios to be so young.
Thank you.
Yes. So we're going to start with your story, and hopefully we're going to get all the dirt on Marnina as she was a teacher. No, I'm just kidding.
Uh-uh.
No, I've heard so many wonderful things about you both. And so we're going to start with your journey. And I'd like to know what was it like for you learning in an immersion setting from a young age? And how has language potentially changed your life since then?
Um, I'll go.
Okay.
So I started speaking Spanish in kindergarten,
Mhm.
at Flicks. And I think that honestly, like learning Spanish that young, like starting to speak Spanish that young, I've literally had people like I've been speaking Spanish to people and people be like, "Was your teacher Mexican?" And it's like, "Yes." Like, "Hey, you have a Mexican accent." Like when you
Oh, I love
it's really
that.
yeah, it's really cool. Like we got to really actually be immersed in the culture too. We had like culture blasts. We had literal events tailored to our languages and like
Mhm.
our the culture that surrounds our languages. So it's really cool being educated in what we're like, not only in the language, but also where it comes from, how it's developed, the traditions that have stemmed from it. And yeah, since then, I mean, I still speak a little Spanish. It's like
Oh,
un poquito. I wouldn't say I kinda fell off, but I did kinda fall off a little bit. Like, I think COVID really did impact language learning I think COVID impacted learning generally, but
yeah.
for me, it definitely impacted my language learning. Like, I
Mhm.
feel like I wasn't as connected anymore, like, especially not being, like, really, in the face of my teacher not being in my face teaching and, not being immersed. Like, I think being immersed in the culture and learning it is very, important. So, definitely now I wanna, come back to my language. Like, it's still there. It's still in me. So, I definitely am working on getting it back to where it was, but yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's very insightful. I know COVID was quite an experience for everyone in
Yeah.
education during that time. So it's interesting to hear kind of what your perspective was and how that, negatively affected, unfortunately, but how you're really working to improve that again. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Mhm.
Who else wants to share with us?
I could go. I had a great time at an immersion school. I loved kindergarten through 8th grade, and I wish that my high school was like as cultural as my middle school was. Obviously, that wasn't the case, but taking Spanish from kindergarten to my junior year of high school was like such a crazy experience that every time I tell somebody, oh yeah, like I did Spanish, I know Spanish since I could speak, honestly, like, that is my second language, like, I love Spanish.
Literally.
So, yeah, I love my little fun fact being like, "Oh, yeah, I did Spanish. I've taken Spanish for 11 years." Like, if you fluent, I might as well be. I love it. So, yeah, I actually wish there were more, foreign language immersion and cultural schools around the world because I think that was a great experience. And, yeah, I just really loved learning Spanish. I wouldn't wanna learn another language as well as I learned Spanish, to be honest.
Okay. So I also am hearing you talk about the cultural both of you mentioning the cultural aspect of being, immersed in a language from such an early age. Would anyone like to speak to that anymore, or how would anyone else like to share their experience?
Yeah, I can talk a bit about the cultural well, I share my background experience. I would definitely say learning Spanish from such a young age, it's definitely given me like a baseline that cannot be changed. I cannot forget my colors no matter how hard I try. Yes, out as many numbers as I could think of. I remember the Basho and Friends songs and Senor Wilkie. Yes. But it
Yes.
makes me remember how to conjugate into past tense when I think of El Banco. Just
Yeah.
that forget it, even if I tried. As far as the cultural aspect goes, it's not just about like learning Spanish, but we did so many things in Spanish, at least up until 4th, 5th grade. Like we did math in Spanish. I don't know if you two remember, but we would go and have to
Yes.
read out in Spanish doing math. Or like in 4th grade when we had to learn about the claves. So it was
Mhm,
aspects of just like learning about the culture along with learning about the language and like
mhm.
constantly engaging with it. The dances, we were always doing the types of dances for our culture blast. Kaylin mentioned culture blast. That was amazing. Constantly trying and making the foods, just
Mhm.
always engrossed in that culture. So that was so much fun.
Can't imagine Marnina teaching you guys how to dance. I know she doesn't love to dance or anything.
But she was our teacher for real. She taught me how to bachata, like
Uh-huh.
When we had to do our culture blast, like, we studied. We were in the books deep,
locked
learning by clave,
in.
learning by chata. There was no, "Yeah, let's watch a video and copy that." No, we knew when it originated, why we had it, how to do it correctly. Like, we had to study to
Yes.
do that culture blast. We had to study to play the claves. We had to study to dance in the gym
And we were
every year.
working day and night
Yes.
practicing.
But what it sounds like too is that created memories that were positive with the language
We
Of
did.
and
course.
gave you that fundamental excitement for other cultures and other experiences. And that kind of I don't know many people that remember their middle school years fondly or
Mhm,
positively. So I think that that's also coming through a lot for me is really cool to have that positive connection that continued. I'm hearing Kaylin and Destiny and Cameron continuing to use your language because of that positive connection to it.
Mhm. Yes.
So I wanted to ask, we'll kick it off. I'll start with Cameron, but anyone can also comment is you've talked about that positive experience with culture.
mhm,
Now I want to kind of talk about you growing up multilingual, multiliterate, starting a second language from a young age.
mhm.
How was that a differentiator for you? How did that maybe open doors or create possibilities or help you to become the person you are today?
It for sure helped me learn to appreciate everyone else's lives and cultures and like what they did when they grew up and things like that. And when I got to high school, I actually worked in a hospital for 6 weeks. And we did have Hispanic patients. And knowing that I was like one of the few on the team that could slightly understand, because despite learning 11 years, there's different types of Spanish. So
Mhm.
picking up little words like dolor, hurt, this, that, and the third. So I think for sure taking the time to do the classes And learning stuff like that helped me pick up in the real world and realize that there are there is a huge language barrier in everyday life, in the workplace, in the hospital, at Myers, at Kroger's. Like, there will be times where people need other people to stand up for them, and that would be the way that I stand up for the person, like, helping them bridge that language gap. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I love that. Absolutely. I agree that noticing, being aware of the fact that not everyone has access to everything because of a language gap or a barrier is, I wouldn't think that all, students your age are as fully aware of that or as concerned about that, and so I think that is a powerful, example of what being immersed in language and culture from an early age can do for you. Do you guys agree with that or have any other thoughts about it?
Yes, totally. I completely agree. I feel like even obviously like yes, it's a thing in the workplace, but it'll always go on my resume that I speak Spanish. Read, write, speak. It'll always go on my resume, and I feel like it's very helpful in gaining opportunities because everybody can't speak a second language. Like, everybody can't speak a second language, especially not Spanish being one, especially with it being one of like the most spoken languages. A lot of people don't speak Spanish. So with you, having that experience and having that skill, it it's a standout. Like it makes you stand out to employers, to jobs, to scholarships, to anything.
Speaking to the standing out, are people surprised? Are people ever surprised when you start speaking Spanish? The
Yeah.
time. People are I speak Spanish fluently, and they when I start speaking, they give me this look like, Why are
Where
you
did you
speaking
learn that?
Spanish?" Yeah, does
Yeah.
that ever happen to you
How do
guys?
you know that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, especially, like, being a young Black woman, like, "Oh, you speak Spanish? Like, where'd you learn how to
Like,
speak
"No, you
Spanish?"
don't. You
"Girl,
don't,
I've
but
been
I
speaking
do. This
Spanish
is
since I
me."
was in kindergarten."
Yeah, and it's like, "Why is that so surprising?" Same for me, they look at me and they're like, "Oh, gringa," but that I speak Spanish, and they're like, "What?" And then they're like, "Are you from America and you speak another language?" And I'm like, "Yeah, believe it or
Yeah,
not." So you're right, it makes you stand out, it's a
yes.
differentiator.
And I think also not only a differentiator, but something I was conscious of in teaching you 3 is how do you connect what you're learning in the language classroom to other skills? Did it prepare you for other disciplines, other things that you're learning? Do you feel that we talk a lot about multiliteracy. Do you think it helped reinforce content you were learning in other classes or help you be stronger academically? In what ways did it do that? And any of you can share that.
Me
Oh, yeah.
personally, I'm sorry, Destiny, I'm so sorry, but
Like,
I
go ahead.
know I love a good song.
Oh,
Like, learning songs in Spanish, to know this conjugation, to know how to use this and when to use it.
Yes.
Yeah, I love a good song. I can make a song out of anything I need to study because a song is gonna have my back when the test comes.
oh,
I
yeah.
love that. What other ways did it help you guys?
I think Destiny had an idea.
Yeah. I just sent Cameron an audio message the other day singing "Encerrada de la Escuela." Still no but I feel like a lot of people are intimidated by learning a new language as opposed to different subjects. Like, there's this, like, intimidation about learning a new language versus, like, learning math, for example, and I feel like that's because people approach learning languages the same way that they approach learning math, where it's just like, "Okay, memorize it for the semester, we never
That's
do
it.
it again. It's okay. It'll disappear." But learning a different language from such a young age, I learned that it's more about immersing yourself in that thing, not just, reading off, memorizing, and then ejecting it from your brain. So it is like I need to like almost like consume this subject,
Mhm.
like really like live in it and not just try to, memorize facts. Like it's like, why does this thing exist? Where did it come from? Like, let me know the background of it so that I can learn like the context around what I'm learning right now. So I think that part helps, like digging deeper and not just like being surface level.
I
Yeah,
like that that gave you
consume
that
youth.
academic curiosity, and I know, Destiny, that led you to studying Japanese or teaching yourself Japanese after you were, quote, unquote, "done." I don't think you were done, but ready to move on from Spanish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I just loved how you used the word consumed. You have to consume it fully. To me, language is it's a skill rather than a content area. It's a content area, but it's a skill. Learning a language is a skill and you have to practice it and use it. And like you said, consume it. That thought of just like eating it up, it has to be inside of you, a part of you. I love how you said that. I think I interrupted someone else. What were you going to say?
I was just saying, like, yeah, I completely agree with Destiny, and like piggybacking off of that, I even feel like it motivates you to consume your other classes and your other subjects in the same way that you would consume Spanish. Like, there are some things in math, English that I'll never ever forget because I feel like learning Spanish from such a young age and absorbing knowledge like that from such a young age trained me to do that in the same way with everything else.
Wow.
I
So
love that.
It's
It was
so
so
powerful.
yeah,
I want you to say that again. That's so good.
so yeah, I feel like honestly, Spanish really did kind of assist me in getting me to where I am now, like being in the space that I am, being in college, doing internships, getting opportunities. It all kind of I think it all kind of goes back because I was learning Spanish even before I got to Flakes. Like I was starting to learn a few, little words, little flashcards.
Mhm.
So, I think it's just something that's instilled in me and that has fostered like excellence inside of me and grown me to be the person I am today.
Kaylin, can you explain even a little bit more how you feel like Spanish? I love everything that you said, and you said how that kind of set you in the path for the excellence that you're accomplishing now. And can you even highlight a little bit more specifically how some of those skills might have helped you get to where you are today?
Yeah, I feel like even like not even just with the skills, even with my teachers, like we had different teachers like per grade, obviously, until we got to middle school, but we had different teachers per grade, and each of those teachers, they all expected excellence out of every single there was nothing less. There was nothing less. There we always were expected to do great and be great. And even learning the language, like obviously that fostered that, but it was also the people who were teaching us the language and teaching us how to do that and teaching us in our subject areas, implementing math in the language. That was like fostering that in us. Um putting things into song to for us to commit it to memory, having us read books in the language, all of it, like it all um put a sense of urgency for learning. It all taught us how to be intentional about what we're learning and about absorbing it. And yeah,
Wow, I love it. It almost sounds like it elevated the whole educational experience for
it
you.
did.
It's almost
It
like it
absolutely did.
forced you to level up to a whole different if I'm interpreting you correctly, it sounds
Yeah.
like it's almost like, "Okay, it's this next level challenge. I'm gonna do math, but I'm gonna do it in Spanish."
Yeah, like
You know?
we were doing stuff
Yeah.
that is unheard of, not unheard
Yeah.
heard of, but like to
Kind
our
of.
peers, it's
Yeah.
unheard of. Like
Yeah.
the people going to the school down the street weren't learning math and Spanish. They weren't
Yeah.
reading Spanish books. They weren't performing Spanish artistry and immersing themselves in that culture and learning in the way that we were.
Well, let me ask you, I'll start with you, Kaylin, but then anyone else can answer. Was there a moment when you realized you could actually use your Spanish in the real world? And if so, what was that moment like?
I think my first like real life moment in using Spanish, I went on a cruise. My first cruise, I think I was like 12 or something. And I we went to Mexico and we were in I believe it was Cozumel. Um, so we were in Mexico and I'm just walking around looking at, souvenirs. And I'm talking to the guy. I'm talking to the salesman in Spanish about what I want. I'm looking at a little shark tooth necklace. I don't even know how to say shark in Spanish. But I'm still talking to him and I feel like that showed me that not only are there different dialects, not only are there different ways to speak, but the people when you're speaking to the people, you don't have to, know exactly what you're saying. Like you have to know something, But other than that,
Just
it's
to
the
know.
same way if somebody was trying to speak English to me and they were kinda a little choppy because they didn't really know every word, I still know what you're saying, or I still understand for the most part what you're trying to say. It's the same way with them, and they're patient with you, like, they understand that this is not your first language. So, yeah, that was my first time using the language in real life, and it being so young too, it really encouraged me to keep, like, wanting to learn more and keep going.
We spend a lot of time on this podcast talking about proficiency.
We sure do. But knowing about proficiency and actually applying it can sometimes feel like two different things.
I know. That's exactly why Avant created Avant Advance.
Advance is an on demand course that deepens your understanding of proficiency levels while giving you practice analyzing authentic student writing samples in your selected language. It's available in 10 languages and counting.
Amazing. So you're not just learning about proficiency, you're practicing how to interpret it with confidence and given strategies to apply the learning directly to your classroom.
You can even earn up to 15 PDUs, and you'll earn a certificate upon completion of the course.
Learn more at avantassessment.com/advance. Wow, I
I
love
love
that.
that. And I saw Destiny was nodding. I know, Destiny, you've studied abroad a couple times.
Yeah. But when I studied in Mexico, I think that was the first time I saw the most practical use, which was that if you spoke Spanish to the vendors, they give you a discount. So that was
Okay.
the first time. But the second time was when I actually started learning Japanese. And a thing that I constantly kept asking myself since I was self-taught was, wait, how did I learn this in Spanish? And then take that and say, okay, how can I use this and learn this in Japanese? Let me look up songs. Let me sing these songs. Let me watch these videos. I was already a big fan of it. What's the point in Let's do the 50 and that without having the English one. Just things like that, you know? But originally we learned things in Spanish and then changing that to how can I learn this now language.
Wow. So it's like you use Spanish as a bridge into learning a third language, which is Japanese, right?
Yeah.
And you just studied that on your own.
Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful. You girls are very impressive. Marnina, I know you're proud of these young women.
More than they know. They were my first babies. They don't let me forget it. And I
Aw.
think they underscore a lot of what we talk about a lot of and I told them, like, they never realized at a young age just the gift they were being given, the
Mhm.
opportunity that it wasn't normal for young people in Detroit to be immersed in a language and in a school that had 4 languages and cultures being taught and being surrounded by that, but that's the world that I would hope we live in, and the fact that they are continuing to recognize that and use that makes me so I mean, it's a teacher's dream, obviously. Um, so I guess, like, I would love to ask, I'm just wondering, and I can start with Destiny, but it can be to anyone. This idea has come up a lot of this idea of excitement because of the culture, because of living it.
Mhm.
So we use this term cultural literacy a lot, and I wanna know what that means to you and really how that plays into the way that you approach language today.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I feel like it's just little things about, stepping out of your shoes and, like, wondering how things are done in a different place around the world. Obviously, not everybody does things the way we do things in the US. And it's not looking at that and saying, "That's different." It's saying, "Ooh, that's different." It has that not seeing it as a negative thing, but as, just seeing it Rome, do as the Romans do. And you can take that and apply that to any country, knowing that, when somebody off of the streets calls you morena, that's like a term of endearment. It's not trying to be rude. It's a nice term. It's meant to be polite.
I love that. I love that recognition. Anybody else have an experience or something to add about that idea of cultural literacy and understanding the culture, not just the language?
I would honestly agree with Destiny. Like, I feel like being immersed in the culture is understanding that people do things differently than yourself, than your culture. Um and it's understandable, and I feel like that's the problem a lot of with a lot of the things that a lot of the issues that we see today. It's just not understanding that this is how this culture works. They're not years, they're not odd, they're not, you know, they're just different. Like, it's just a different culture, it's a different place in the world, and they do things differently. And I feel like if people just understood that, a lot of things would be more in order, honestly, like in my opinion. If people would just understand that we're different people and we're different from different parts of the world. We're different. It's okay.
It's
It's
literally okay.
yeah, like it's okay. It's not the end of the world for real.
I love hearing you say that, and I think, yes, 100%. I wanna share that soundbite with the whole world over and over and over because I think so many, people, especially in the United States, we're kind of insulated in terms of other languages and cultures. We don't always get that experience, and so it's easy if something's unfamiliar to feel like it's wrong or bad. But when you as you were talking, you were saying how it's just different, and that's just how they do that in their country. We're just not familiar with it, and so maybe we can be curious about it and learn more about it before we come to some sort of a judgment or a decision about whether it's good or bad, and again, that's a cultural perspective that I would say is not always common here, and I think that your experience with, immersion, language, culture, and now how it's affecting you in the real world is definitely a part of that. Yeah.
100%, and that it became normal to experience from a young age.
Yeah.
That you learned from age 5 or 6 that you were surrounded by people that were different in cultural experiences that were new, and that that was normal, that that was just a thing that humankind gets to be a part of is really, really, really powerful. So I'll kick it to I mean, to go along with that, my question, I think we talk a lot about this idea that we're in a globalized tech-shaped world. We have translator tools at our fingertips. You can put something in Google Translate, it spits it out. You can just communicate across languages so seamlessly. What do you feel like is missing with that, or why is learning a language the way you did actually learning it rather than relying on that, why is that so important today?
Me, personally, I'm not anti-AI. I'm not anti-AI. Soul is missing. The soul is missing. And you're not always gonna have Wi-Fi. You're not always gonna have a translator available to you. If you somehow get dropped off in the middle of Mexico, what you gonna do? I just I I just feel like relying so heavily on technology and not having that skill set in your own database is setting yourself up for failure. It's lazy and it's unproductive, and I just feel like it should be used as a tool, but it shouldn't be relied on. It You should
Mm.
be able to do that on your own, and you can still use it, like, you can still use Google Translate if you need to look something, look up a word real quick, but why are you translating your whole paper into Google Translate? Do what you
Wow, that's a skill set you should have in your own database. I love that. That is so powerful. That's a quotable quote, Kaylin. That is a skill set you should have in your own database.
You
You
got
don't need to use
brain, you got
AI
the
for that.
brain, it's right
I
there.
I love that, and how you said it's missing the soul. I mean, those are 2 really powerful things that I heard you talk about, and it's true, artificial intelligence is a type of intelligence, but it is artificial, and it
Yes.
is missing the soul, and that is that what makes us human? Is that the differentiator? I don't know. What do you
And
guys what do you think? Destiny, Cameron, you guys have any thoughts?
I was, gonna say that we were taught every single grade, "Don't use Google Translate, don't use Google Translate, don't"
yeah.
drilled it, "Don't use Google Translate." Google Translate, it gets rid of a lot of the context, and you
Mhm.
a completely different thing, and because you don't know that thing is completely off of the mark from what you meant initially, and as a communications teacher, miscommunication trope is one of my least favorite tropes ever in existence. At least knowing a little bit of the language, you could be like, "Oh, this sounds right. This was in the ballpark of what I need."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I think it also takes away from the fact that language or learning a second language almost fundamentally shapes your brain and how your brain works. By
Uh-huh.
proven. I'm not don't quote me on that, but I believe it is scientifically proven that it makes you more open-minded or more open to different solutions and thinking things in different ways. So you lose that skill completely when you're just like, "Oh, the AI can do it. It's fine."
Mm. She
I
is
just
so
think
wise. You're so wise, Destiny, and all of you, Kaylin, Cameron, you have brought us a wealth of wisdom. Do you
I think that the use of AI when it comes to things like well, in general, I just think that it shows that you don't care and you don't have the patience to say, "Okay, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna take my time, I'm gonna think about what I know, and if I need help, okay, sure." Not really, but sure. But, like, they don't people don't wanna sit down and take the time to actually take it in, like, earlier Destiny was saying, you have to consume it. Actually, it has to consume you. You have to want to be in it, and it has to be in you, like, you
How?
have to take the time to, like, really take in what you're trying to learn. If you're just gonna open a book, "Oh, I don't know what that sentence says," whatever, then it's like, "Did you try? Did
Like,
you take 5 minutes?" A lot can happen in 5 minutes. I actually got to my dorm from the car in 5 minutes, and it's a 10-minute walk.
Wasn't bad in our house right over
If
there.
you want
yeah,
it bad enough, you'll get it, but people don't want it bad enough.
yes, I agree.
So
I completely agree. And your brain is a muscle. Your brain
use
is a
it.
muscle. You have to exercise your
Yes.
muscles if you want them to grow, if you want them to remain strong, if you want them to,
If you don't use it, you lose it.
hello,
If you do not
hello.
use it, you will
Like
lose it.
literally, like just relying on AI is literally like I wouldn't say it's literally melting your brain, but it's melting your brain. Like you're you're
What
like
I love is
we're losing recipes
Yes.
yeah.
and
People are not making albums anymore, like,
people are not
really
making albums anymore.
it's really you're losing stuff. We're losing the human English, humanity. We're losing humanity,
Yes.
yeah.
and it's not looking good.
I agree. Like, traveling abroad, you also realize just how much people appreciate when you try, actually. Like,
Yes.
even if you bomb it, they're just like, "Wow, you did it." Like,
Yeah.
"You spoke Spanish?
You put some effort in.
Wow."
Yeah, and that's not even a lot, but it's more than most.
It's
All you need
literally
is effort.
Mhm.
Bad or good, effort. You tried. You put your best foot forward, and that's all you could do, but you did something.
Yes.
People
And
don't
I
do
feel
anything.
yes.
I'm gonna make this mandatory listening for all language students and for my own personal teenagers, my children. I want them to listen to this too.
I what I also love is that this is coming from digital
Yeah.
natives. You
Mhm.
came out of the womb with the internet. You know, you grew up in a world where that was the norm.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of assumptions are made about your generation, for better or worse, that you just rely on that because that's what you know. And you're pushing back and saying, no, actually, it's a tool in the repertoire. There are moments where it's useful, it's at our disposal for that. But I'm still going to think for myself. I learned how to use that brain and how to use that communication because I can. And I think that pushes back on a lot of assumptions made about young people today. So I think when it comes from you, it also hits different.
Absolutely. It
We
hits very
exist.
different.
Not all of us have to rely on AI. We exist, I
Yes,
promise.
we
We
exist, I
exist.
I promise.
Wow.
yes,
Wow.
and we were born into, like, the digital age, but we did still kinda see the transition from, like, the early digital age to now. Yeah, we weren't iPad
But
kids. We didn't have AI when we were in elementary, middle school, like, we did have to do the thinking. We had Quizlet.
we
We
did.
had
We did have Quizlet.
but that was still us, learning
We
from
had to input
other
the
people.
information, like, we had
Yes,
to do it ourselves. We had to put our best foot forward. That's literally proving point again. We had
yes.
to do it.
We had to do the work, and it reflects in how we grew up today, like, how we grew up into the adults we are today, and I feel like that's what's missing now in education is just making the kids do the work. You have to do the work,
Mhm.
and the results will show that you
The pudding.
Well, Kaylin, you segued actually beautifully into my next question, which was I want to know, as someone who lived it, and I'd like to hear from all three of you, if I could. As someone who lived it, what would you say to families, educators, or young learners today about the value of learning multiple languages? Any advice for language students like yourself or those of us who support them?
I think everyone should learn a second language. And as I sit here and think about the discipline that came from learning another language, as well as us being in a artificial intelligence era, that if you sit down and realize, hey, I kind of want to learn this. This will help me in the long run, whether it's getting opportunities or just being able to help other people or just using your brain power to learn something on your own. I think everyone should learn at least one other language or attempt to, even if you don't become fluent. If you do your Duolingo every other day,
Yeah.
that's all it takes.
Just learn how to count.
Count to 100. Count by your 10s, your 20s, count by your 5,
Hey, just figure it out. Come
your
on.
alphabet.
My
And
friends got you.
by
Yes, it's always on YouTube, y'all. Everything's
yes.
on YouTube.
Your Woolies on YouTube too. So like if you wanna
Hello.
learn your conjugations, there's something for you.
Absolutely. Well, Kaylin or Destiny, what would your advice be? Or,
I I agree with Cameron. Just literally, if you want everybody needs to know something. You need to know something from another language. You need to have a couple buzzwords that you know. If you heard a fluent speaker or a native speaker saying the words, oh, you'd be like, oh, gato. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I just feel like having that skill is genuinely, it not only builds your discipline, but it also builds your skill. Like it
It's
builds
rewarding.
in your huh?
It's rewarding.
Yes, it's so rewarding to know that you know how to do something that a lot of other people don't. Like, and it sounds kind of shallow, like oh, like I'm kind of better than you, but like you're not better than anybody else, obviously. But it kind of feels like that. It's very rewarding. It's very rewarding to be able to. Um, I had to take Spanish 101 my freshman year of college.
oh my
And
gosh.
I was just sitting there like
That's just
I
so
did
boring.
this in kindergarten, literally. Literally, I did all of this in kindergarten, and it's just like it was a breeze. I got an A. So,
Wow.
yeah, I just think that everybody should know how to speak another language or have, a little bit of something in that database, you know, knowing a few words, a few vocabulary words,
Mhm.
and being able to pass that on to other people too is very rewarding, and being able to teach somebody else another language is very rewarding. So, yeah, everybody should learn something.
Love it.
Absolutely. I have to second that. Teaching another language to somebody else is it's so much fun breaking it down to people and being like, guys, it's simpler than it looks.
Miss,
Promise, it's easier than English.
if
But
anything.
I feel like something we take for granted in the US is that we're insulated in a place where English is the dominant language, even though it's not, the official language because we don't have one. But in places like Europe, where there's so many countries packed tightly together, the majority of people in Europe speak more than one language. So I feel like that's a value that we're like behind the curve of a little bit in the US. And, even if it's just like the Cameron said, even if it's just learning a couple of words, understanding the base context goes a long way. It goes a long way. You don't need to know every word. You don't need to know every conjugation because chances are you'll know the root word and you'll be like, I understand what you're talking about. Same way that if you were to speak to someone whose first language wasn't English, you would get the gist of what they were talking about and you could connect the dots. It's the same way. So, even if it's just a fundamental understanding, you can go a long way with just that. And people will help you along the way.
Yep.
Well, I just want to thank you three so much for coming on and for sharing your insight. You've done all of us so proud, but I know you represented Detroit Public Schools and Foreign Language Immersion and Culture Studies, or FLICS, so well and really showcased what young people are capable of in the world today. It gives me a lot of hope
Mhm.
that people like you are out there and bringing on the next generation. And it also underscores the importance of the work that we're uplifting on the multiliterate mind of the many educators planting those seeds that grow into these beautiful beings
Oh.
that can make our society better, that can succeed beyond our wildest dreams. So thank you so, so, so much for being here and for joining this conversation. I know I'm inspired and I can't wait to share this with everyone I know because I think your voices are so, so important. So, to our listeners, our viewers, our audience, if you were intrigued by something in this episode and want to add to this conversation, be sure to comment below and remember to like, subscribe, and share this podcast in your networks. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
All opinions expressed in this podcast and the comments are solely those of the individual and not necessarily those of Avant.